Hello and welcome to the Inspirational Fitness Show. I'm Nigel Gordon-Johnson and my guest today is Andy Hodgson. Andy is the co-founder and director of the Falklands Ultra Marathon. Now, for those of you watching or listening to the show who are British, will immediately know where the Falkland Islands are and their significance to just about every single British citizen. For those of you a little farther afield that don't know, the Falkland Islands are in the South Atlantic near the bottom of South America. And I'm pretty sure if my geography is right, that if you get in a boat, head south, next landmass you come across is the Antarctica. The big significance is that in 1982, there was the Falklands conflict that took place after the military junta in Argentina invaded the islands and the British sent a task force all the way to the South Atlantic to liberate the islands and the people on it. The inaugural race is in March 2022 and will be 100 miles from Goose Green to Stanley via San Carlos, Mount Kent, Wireless Ridge and Tumbledown, all names that evoke powerful memories for so many of us. Andy, it's my great pleasure. Thanks for coming along today. How are you?
Well, thank you very much, Nigel, for having me. It's a privilege to be on your podcast, and I'm really excited to be here. I loved your intro there. I mean, just listening to you reel off those names. I mean, I've got them over my shoulder for those people that can see the video as well down there. I mean, absolutely, they resonate with perhaps not every British citizen, but those of us of a certain age, without giving anything away, who was a child during those times in the early 80s when we'd hear these place names on the 6 o'clock news on an evening. They resonate, and it's part of the world that very few people have got the opportunity to experience, and yet we've all heard of them. So, and this hopefully is going to be an opportunity for a lot of people to see the places that they've heard about.
I mean, it is, yeah, exactly. Without, obviously, I'm early 30s, so I could only know about the Falklands conflict by reading it in the history books, but. Yeah, I think a lot of people know about it, and it still evokes a lot of memories in a lot of people of some age. But perhaps I think the thing that I really struck me when I first saw this was like, why the Falklands? I mean, what got you involved in it in the first place? I mean, it is just about everybody I've spoken to and mentioned about this that I'm going to be talking to you have all said the same thing, that it's wow, the Falklands, God, that's amazing. You know, everybody gets very excited by it, but perhaps tell me a little bit about why did you choose it?
Well, you're right. I mean, it is something that does capture the imagination and the enthusiasm of people. And it is, I really do feel privileged to be in this position, to be organizing and associated with an event that does stir such passion in people. You know, might not be everybody's kettle of fish, but everyone seems to be like amazed by it. Wow, it's a really cool thing. And it all started, gosh, it's been a long journey. It started about 8 years ago. Where are we now? 2021. So 2012, so 9 years ago. And my best mate was stationed down there with the RAF. And he spent 12 months down in the Falklands. And I was bombarded by his photos, his videos, hearing what he got up to. I thought, oh wow, this place sounds amazing. And I couldn't afford the time away at the time. I was starting my own business at the time and couldn't justify, you know, a week or 2 weeks, because it is a long way away, to go down and visit. And before I knew it, his 12 months deployment was up. He was back in the UK. And so I said to him, Stu, what big event is there in the Falklands? I've got to go down. I've seen what it is now. I've seen your photos, seen your videos, seen the wildlife, the terrain, the landscape, and I've got to go. But you know, it's a long way to go. What can I use to help me get there? Is there a big ultra marathon? Is there a big adventure race? What are the big international events there? And he said, well, there aren't any international events. What? How can a country not have any international events? And getting there is the real challenge. There is a flight for a Ministry of Defence flight from Brize Norton each week, and there's a handful of seats available to civilians. you can get bumped off those seats. There's also a commercial flight from South America run by LATAM Airlines. It's not at the moment a robust solution, and often weather causes it to be cancelled. So it's very difficult to have a robust plan, a logistics plan to get a sufficient number of people there in one place. So we had to look at air charter. So we're looking at chartering an Airbus from Santiago to get us in, so scheduled flights into Chile and then air charter back down. It may be, we're in discussion with LATAM Airlines, it may be that we can use one of their scheduled flights anyway and do a block booking. But here's us wanting to organize a race, and what we found ourselves is we're having to become tour operators and travel agents and logistics experts, and that absolutely dominates it, because these islands that are 7,800 miles away from the UK, they're supported by the UK. There's a regular ship from Southampton down to the Falklands carrying supplies, etc. This is not an easy place to get to, and as such, it's been a barrier to entry to create an international event. So what we're hoping to put on in March next year is the inaugural Falklands Ultra, which will be the biggest event in the Falklands since 1982. So
wow, that's something in itself. That is the fact it's the biggest event since then. Just to get
that's not the official tagline of it, by the way.
No, but it sounds good. I think you should just go with it. No one's going to question that one. But it probably is. In reality, what else have they had? And they don't. It's because it is so far away. How long does it actually take to get there? If you were getting, it'd be interesting to know. If the direct flight, how long does that take? And if you miss the flight and go on a boat, for instance, how long does that take?
I think by ship it's a 6-week round trip. By flying, there's a number of routes available. So it depends how you go, but you're looking at about 16 hours flight time. So we're breaking it up across Santiago, and probably on the way back we'll probably be overnighting in Santiago in a hotel, just to make it a little bit easier. But if we're all traveling together on the same planes, hopefully the plane journey is going to be part of the adventure as well. Traveling with 100 like-minded adventurers, ultra athletes, or have a go fundraisers, because we represent the whole lot. We've got such a broad range of people that are coming along. We are hopefully going to have between 100 and 200 people, and 200 is the hard limit imposed on us. It does represent about 10% of the population of the country.
Wow.
That's the other thing we've really got to bear in mind when we talk about the logistics getting there, but then supporting the event when we're there. We're going to have to make sure we take everything that we need with us. We can't just go down to the local shop and buy a whole lot of scaffolding if we find that we need to build an additional river crossing, for example. We're going to have to ship all that out in advance. So, this is one of the really remote corners of the earth. Between 2,000 and 3,000 people is the population of the country, and it's not a small place. It's about the same size as Wales, but with the population of a small village. So I don't know if do you use Strava at all?
I do. Yeah.
A lot of athletes do use Strava these days, fairly ubiquitous. And if you're familiar with their global heat map, where you can see where people run and cycle around the world, and you have a look in the central part of the Falkland Islands, it's black. It's
no one goes running there.
No. So the tourist industry that exists in the Falklands, most of the tourists that visit, they visit around Stanley and the immediate hills around Stanley, and they might go out to see penguins and some of the beaches, which are some of them are a drive away. But if you head east into the terrain, you're properly remote. And certainly there are patches of the course, the ultra course, that you know, the competitors' feet will be some of the first feet on that ground, you know, in 40 years.
Wow.
With the exception of myself and the team who'll be putting all the markers out and signposts and so on. You know, you're a long way away from any significant population centres.
And give us a sense of what the climate's like there. I think we have this sort of image of the Falklands, which probably rightly or wrongly, probably because of the conflict and because of the time that it was done, that we feel it's really cold and wet. And that, I mean, we can see the landscape of it, but is it like that? I mean, what will the competitors sort of expect?
Well, part of what I think that we'll be delivering is a mechanism to dispel some of those myths. I'm probably not doing myself any favors by having get the right shoulder, a picture behind me of part of the terrain in snow. Over the other shoulder, I do have it in the sunshine as well. And that actually probably reflects reality. So overall, the temperature is probably very similar to a lot of the UK. It's a little bit drier than the UK. We talk about 4 seasons: summer, winter, autumn, and the one I've missed out. But in actual fact, in the Falklands, you probably get 12 seasons, and you probably have them all within half an hour. So one thing that we can guarantee is wind and sunshine and rain and snow and fog and everything else that I haven't mentioned. It all happens. It happens very quickly, and it disappears very quickly. So it is windier than the UK. There's very little land mass down at that latitude. But it's a nice sunny place. There's more sunshine than there is here. And in fact, part of our mandatory kit is going to be sunscreen. One thing to bear in mind is there's no pollution there, down in that whole latitude, all the way around the globe. Yeah, so there's no significant industry. There's no fumes in the air. The air is as crystal clear as you can imagine. And there's also a slight problem with the level of ozone. Not so much ozone down there as well.
Yeah.
So what that all amounts to is crystal clear skies, a lot of ultraviolet light. It might be warm. It won't be hot. It might be warm. But as a result, if it's a clear night, I mean, it's going to be a great place for stargazing, because all the stars are going to be aimed. So there's nothing going to be between you and the stars.
And of course, southern hemisphere stars, so won't be the ones we necessarily quite so used to. So it'll be an experience.
They're nicer down there.
Apparently, I don't think I've ever spent much time looking at the stars in the southern hemisphere, unfortunately. But yeah, so I'm told it's a lot better to do that.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that it's going to be clear, or there's going to be patches of clear through the night. Because of course, when the competitors are doing the ultra, some of the faster ones on the 100K course, I mean, they're likely to finish during the day, but a lot won't, and certainly on the 100-miler, you know, they might take up to 40 hours. They might be going into a second night. So fingers crossed they'll get some clear nights, and that'll be a particularly magical experience as well.
Are there any trees on the island? I know this sounds crazy, but is it? I mean, it always has the impression that there isn't any.
Correct. Well, there are a few trees, but there's no indigenous trees. So there's a few trees that have been planted. And there's been a memorial woodland that's been planted, but no, there's no trees, which also means no shelter. So when you're out there and the weather turns against you, you're exposed. So, you know, mandatory kit is it's mandatory. You have to be prepared for it turning cold and wet and rainy, and it'll happen really quickly as well. And you're not going to be able to find some tree to huddle under. You might be able to take some shelter behind some of the rock formations, because generally it's a very rocky terrain. I think for those on video can see that there's some examples of that behind me. But and of course, with all the checkpoints, there's places for shelter, and we're using a selection of farm outbuildings as well. But as I say, this is not a densely populated country.
Yeah.
There's everyone is going to have to be GPS tracked. We're going to have to know where everyone is at all time throughout the whole event, and be paying close attention to the weather forecast, because safety's got to be the number one priority. And you are in a really remote, wild part of the world.
Yeah, which I guess is that double-edged sword, isn't it? It's the that's sort of what's so attractive about it, but at the same time means it's going to come with a little bit more risk and a bit more safety involvement as well. So I mentioned through all those sort of points that we're going through, and those names that are so evocative, but obviously along that route. But why did you select the route? I mean, is there any significance in that?
Yeah, I mean, so we spent a lot of time thinking about the route, and it's been evolving since the start. But one of the things that we really wanted to do, to go back to your very first question about why we wanted to set it up in the first place, what we wanted to do was create a platform that could be used by charities as a fundraising event. And in particular, both myself and my co-founder, Stuart, were both ex-military. We're both very keen to support military veteran charities. And so by linking it to that 1982 route taken by British forces, it does have a strong appeal, provides a connection to those charities and supporters of those charities. So, and also it's a great theme as well, people who are interested in the conflict can get a real taste of what the guys had to do back in those times. Obviously, there's not going to be any live firing, mortars, artillery, or anything like that.
Hopefully not.
Not for year one. We might think about that in future years. Obviously, you can't do a direct comparison, but for people to be able to be there and going over that route, it enables their imagination to then put themselves in that location from 40 years ago and understand a little bit more, brings it to life a little bit more. I mean, it's not we don't directly follow the route. We are also bound by risk assessments and making sure it's safe, but also making sure that people get to see the best parts of the island as well.
Yeah.
So from the start, from the 100-mile start, the first part we do kind of back to front. So from Goose Green to San Carlos, because of course in '82, task force landed in San Carlos, and there's one party headed down to Goose Green for a big battle there. So that bit we're kind of doing back to front. And so we leave Goose Green and we head up to the top of Mount Usborne. Now, the troops didn't do that, but Mount Usborne is the highest point on the island. Okay, so from there, on a clear day, I mean, you see most of the country. You're super high up. If the skies are clear, you'll be able to see for miles and miles around. So it was really important. We wanted to share that bit of that experience with the competitors. And then it goes down to San Carlos, and obviously we've got to make sure the route goes via the various farm buildings where we can provide sufficient support, and also there is a road on the island, and when you're away from Stanley, there are lots of roads in Stanley, but there's one big road in the island, and that also governs our logistics and how we support.
Yeah.
Got to make sure that there are enough Mars bars and flat Coke and peanuts and on all bananas and all the goodies that you need to resupply your body all the way around the course. Because of course, remember these guys, I mean, even on the 100-kilometer course, people might be going for 36 hours. So we do need to get a lot of calories, make sure that everyone's got sufficient supplies to keep them going, keep putting one foot in front of the other.
I'm sure it will do. I mean, you mentioned about, obviously it's not exactly following the routes, but it has such great memories, especially I'm sure for servicemen. I mean, I remember when I was running the Marathon des Sables, that there were plenty of ex-servicemen who were doing that, and during the conversations you have with them, a lot of them have their own really very personal journeys they're going through, and it's sort of people go through ultras for lots of different reasons, but I think that one especially will have echoes for a lot of people who have got military connections in order to do something like that, to really I guess sort of find on the journey either for a relative or for themselves for something they've done. So I'm sure it'll be a great experience for people.
Well,
on
we do have a lot of guys who do, as you say, had relatives that fought in '82.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to have a few veterans who are coming back and they're taking part. And bear in mind, this is 40 years ago, and they were fighting in the Falklands conflict in 1982, and they're coming back and they're racing over 100 miles non-stop.
Wow.
Some of those things that they give my wife a little bit of a heart attack. She's the medical director. And
There you go.
how old are these people? I was like, don't worry. As you get older, you build more stamina.
Exactly. You'll be fine. Well, the MDSI did in 2015. We had Serrano Fines competing in it. So, and albeit he was a little bit at the back, and I think at the time I might be doing him wrong, but he was near around 70. So he was, and he completed it and did that. So, I mean, absolutely. I think the people who have that character set, no matter what age you are, you'll still go charging through it. So.
Well, that's part of what I'd love people to experience, because I mean, for a lot of people, they'll have done a lot of ultramarathons before. We've got guys who like Mike Wardian, who's like world champion at various ultra distances and American Ultra Athlete of the Year. The real elite guys. But then we've got guys at the other end of the scale as well, who are just wondering whether or not they can get round. Yeah. And that's one message I'm really keen that more people understand, that people can actually do it. Everyone is so much more capable than they might initially believe. You can just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and your body hurts a lot earlier than it's time to give up. Everyone hurts, even the top guys. They start to hurt. Okay, and it's just a matter of, you just keep on pushing, and you don't give up. I mean, basically the hurting, that's your first sign that you're actually working. Okay, you're doing a good job. It's not a signal to stop at all.
Exactly. I'm always there are some signals for it, but I'm always minded whenever we talk about those kind of things. I remember seeing this bit where somebody once asked Muhammad Ali how many sit-ups he did, and he said he doesn't know because he only started counting when it started hurting. And it's like that's the point. These guys is exactly like that, and I'm sure that anyone who's familiar with the sort of the David Goggins of this world, who talks a lot about it, and if you're not familiar with David Goggins, go and Google him. Absolutely fantastic, very inspirational character, and he talks about, he's an ex-Navy SEAL, and they talk about that 40% rule, where as soon as you start hurting, you want to give up, you've only gone 40% of your capability. You have so much more left to give, and it isn't until you start doing and starting pushing yourself a little bit more each time that you start to realize that. And it can be it doesn't mean you have to do these great ultras. It can actually just be, do you know what? I normally walk round the block, but I'm gonna start trying to run a little bit round the block. And as soon as you then do that, you think, Michael, and the pleasure and the amazement that you've done, because you never thought you could do it. And it's just keep constantly pushing yourself a little bit more each time.
All right. Well, I wouldn't like to be one to correct Dave Goggins or say he's wrong, but I don't think I've ever gone 40% of the way into an ultra before I've started hurting. 5% maybe.
I think there's a point, I think, where whenever I've done one, it's like, I agree. It hurts right from the beginning, but then I have a different challenge now, in that I have a 3-year-old who likes waking up mega early and has done ever since she was born. So I've now seen what 4 o'clock in the morning is like all the time, and for somebody who's really not a morning person, it's been a very change of routine. So I think that's turned into my ultra experiences now.
Well, the great thing about, if people aren't morning people, great thing about the Falklands Ultra is they're 4 hours behind.
There you go.
You know, if
That's going
they
to
don't
help.
like getting up at midday, it's still only 8 a.m. in the Falklands.
Now, we talked about obviously the people who have great experiences and the great ultra runners and everything else. But I mean, do you have to be at that level in order to
You
come and
don't.
do
So
this? I mean, is it something that could be open? Do you have different? Because I know it's not just the ultra. I think you're also going to have the lesser distances as well. So is it going to be something that you would encourage people who don't have that kind of experience as well?
we have 3 distances. So the big one is 100 miles. And for that, we would encourage people to have some experience of ultras. Yeah, we have a 40-hour cutoff, but the first 60 kilometers or so of that, we want them to be getting through that quite quickly. So the cutoff times will be designed to allow for a lot of fade. Yeah. So the first 60 kilometers they've got to clear, I think, in about 10 or 12 hours. So we encourage that only for the more experienced runners. 100 kilometers, we believe, is something that anybody could do, even if they've done nothing up until this point. 12 months is plenty to get your mind and your body in the right state to attempt something like that. We also have a marathon distance, and because I mean, one thing, nobody knows what their body is going to be feeling like in 12 months time, 14 months time. So if you've got a niggle, whatever, you wanted to do the 100k, but you don't think it's wise because your knee's giving you a bit of trouble. So there is 100k. There's the marathon distance as well. Nobody's going to get a personal best on the marathon because it's from Goose Green up to the highest point on the island, top of Mount Usborne, and back down again, back down to San Carlos. So it's not a fast course. But that one again, anybody could do that. And so we support walking pace on the marathon and the 100k, but you do need to get a shuffle on the 100 milers for the first third of it.
Because that is a bit of a way. And if from what I've seen in some of the pictures of it, it's not just mountain scenery that you're going to be seeing. So talk to us a little bit about what are the kind of scenery? I mean, are there some remnants of the battles there as well? I mean, I'm sure you've got some local flora and fauna that you'll be looking at. But
well, first thing to bear in mind is it's a single stage non-stop race. So we're down there. It's a 10-day trip away, of which about 7 8 days is in country. And the race is only on 1 or 2 of those days, depending on your speed. And the rest of the time, you're seeing everything else there is can't see everything, but you see all the key things. There's opportunities to see all the key things in the Falklands when we're there. So the thing that really sticks out is the penguins. So no better place in the world to see penguins. There's 5 different types of penguins, and everyone loves a penguin.
Everyone loves a penguin.
And the time we're going there is actually the time that the penguins chicks will be fledgling. So if you like baby, it doesn't get better than that. If you like baby penguins, this is the place and the time to go. There's the penguins. There's seals. There's the wildlife. Key point to mention is this. Remember, this is a really remote part of the world. There's hardly any people there. This wildlife hasn't learned to be afraid of humans.
Wow.
So you can get very close to these things. You can get too close. So there are guides as well to you don't want to walk up on an angry sea lion. Those sea lions, they're big and smelly and impressive, but don't go and try and wrestle one or hug one, or they're not
a good idea.
Not a so there's the wildlife thing, which is absolutely epic. So if you like animals, like penguins, amazing place. There's the scenery. I mean, it's dramatic, it's beautiful. I mean, I was talking to Simon Weston earlier on this afternoon, who's going to be joining us down there. And he of all people has got reason not to be a fan of the Falklands. For those who don't know, Simon was injured in an attack on his ship in '82 and suffered some pretty horrible injuries. But he describes it as the most beautiful place on the planet. It is raw, unpolluted, unpopulated. It is natural beauty, so you'll be able to walk in these remote, untouched landscapes that you have to see you have to be there to believe them. There's opportunities for rock climbing, so you can go on the various mountains around Stanley. We're providing rock climbing opportunities. There's kayaking. You'll be able to go kayaking in the inlets in organized trips or on your own, and if you're lucky, you might be surrounded by the penguins and the seals. So kayaking with seals and penguins, that's an experience in itself. And of course, there's the beaches. The beaches. I don't have any photos of the beaches behind. I might be able to send you some. But the beaches, perfect, amazing beaches. Not really designed for sunbathing because of the temperature. It might be warm, but don't plan on it being sunbathing temperatures. But the beaches are pristine and fantastic. And then there's some people like golf, but it's not my.
Do they have a golf course there?
They have a golf course, and there's we've got an acclimatization race. There's it's one of the best places in the world for trout fishing as well. So there's all these opportunities. If there's probably not going to be time to do everything, and that's all included in the package.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds fascinating. And you said it's going to be around about 10 days. Did you say? Is it from?
It's 10 days to and from the UK with flight tour included. And I didn't answer your previous question about the relics as well, because sorry, I got distracted by the penguins.
Penguins. Well, penguins do distract you, and especially when you've got the little ones as well. Yeah,
but lots of relics from the conflict have been left as reminders, and you'll be running past those. You'll see guns and mortars as lasting reminders of the conflict. In fact, one of our last checkpoints is a wrecked Chinook helicopter.
Wow.
So that's not something that you get to experience in many races, and in fact in most places in the world, these things wouldn't exist. They'd be removed, or they'd be stolen, by tourists as mementos. Whereas that doesn't happen in the Falklands. So you're surrounded by this really dramatic history.
It's extraordinary, and it's because it's two islands, isn't it? Main islands. Lots of little ones.
There's the two big ones, lots of little ones, and most of the population is based on East Falkland.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can see, for those on video,
you can see,
see the map here, most of the population is on East Falkland, and that's where we're for the entirety of the trip. If people want to take the opportunity to go and visit West Falkland during the time, there will be opportunities. We're not dictating everything that people should do while they're there. We're providing the opportunities to enable them to go and sample everything that they want to see.
Yeah. And how do they sign up? I mean, you've got a website. I think it's falklandsultra.com, and certainly everything will be in the link. I'll provide all of those links. But is it just a sign up from the website?
Yep, just go to the website. If you want more information, there's a brochure available for download on the website. If you want to join the mailing lists, you can be kept up to date with news updates. You can register your interest. And of course, if you think, oh my God, I want to be part of this amazing experience, then you can enter on the website too. And the contact details, if you want to know, if you've got any specific questions, then the contact address is on the website as well, telephone number, etc.
Well, listen, Andy, I think it sounds absolutely fascinating. I really do. I think it's a really truly inspirational type of event and an amazing venue. I think you've been very smart to try and think of something like here, and I really admire it for you to do it. I guess my last question, I mean, you sort of mentioned about why you did that. I mean, how long has this been in?
This has been 8 years. 8 years to get to this point.
8 years.
Wow. It's a challenge. A lot of learning the package travel regulations and getting a date that everybody's happy with, because we have to deconflict with Falkland Island government activities and cruise ships, military activities, airlines, fishing, schools. Because when we're there, we're 10% of the population of the country. We can't just turn up unannounced. And so, getting the right dates has proved to be a challenge. And certainly coronavirus hasn't helped things. And in fact, just yesterday, they announced that the commercial flights aren't starting again until June at the earliest to get down there. But these things are thrown at us to test us. It'll make it all the sweeter when it all comes off next March.
Oh, I think it sounds absolutely amazing. Well, listen, Andy, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed hearing more about it. We'll include some of the pictures of the event as well, and where they're going to be looking at somewhere embedded in this in the video side. So if you're listening to this, you're going to have to go back onto YouTube and go and watch it. So, but for the time being, Andy, thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Good luck with the rest of it. I hope it goes well. I'll be eagerly waited to see how the attendance goes, and hopefully bag my own place honour to it as well. Well, although I can't sure which distance it'll be.
Well, we'd love to have you, Nigel, and thank you very much for inviting me onto the show. So thank you.